listening to the Help, I'm a Contractor podcast with Seth Lewis. This podcast is dedicated to helping hardworking contractors share ideas with other contractors. Seth is educated through the School of Hard Knocks, a contractor, business coach, and author. Seth helps contractors break through recurring challenges by helping them study themselves first. Seth's unique approach is guaranteed to take you from your current reality to your business dream. Learn more at www.startthemo.com. Here is your host, Seth Lewis.
Today on the show, I'm excited for our guest. Ramondo Cervantes is the owner of FRC Construction. And we're going to be talking about today the journey of a business owner, why you do it. And I'm interested and excited to hear about Ramondo and his passion of transforming people's properties into their dreams. So welcome to the show, Ramondo. How are you today?
Yeah, good, man.
Good to have you on.
Yep.
So tell me a little bit about, where you're located to start off, and a little bit more briefly about your business.
Yeah, so I'm located over here in the Pacific Northwest, man. So we love the rain. We get rain about 6 months out of the year. So I'm in the Portland area. I live in Tiger, but it's basically the Portland metro area in the Pacific Northwest. So again, like I said, it rains 6 months out of the year. But the nice thing is, man, we can continue to work. We had a heavy snow last month, but that's about it. But we can still work outside. So that's a nice thing. We can continue to work all year. Because I'm in a hardscape industry, so we can lay material basically all year, man, out there. So it's fun. I lived in Oregon my entire life, man. I was born here in 1990. I was actually born in the coast, Coos Bay, Oregon. And then from there, I went to high school over there. And then I had the privilege of going to community college too, getting my associate's degree in business administration. So I went 2 years to community college. And then after talking to my sister, she was a graduate of Oregon State University. She worked actually at the financial aid office. I had no plans to go to university, honestly, man. No plans. As soon as I got my associate's degree, that's it. But then she convinced me to go to university. I spent a little bit longer than I wanted to. After 2 years of community college, I spent another 3 years at the university getting my bachelor's degree, after repeating a few courses and all that stuff. And then I finally graduated, man, in 2016 with a bachelor's degree in finance, which I'm super happy. It was a long battle, a lot of days where I was crying, man, because like, how am I going to pass these courses? But the person that was really helpful and inspired me all that time, even in the tough times when I was in college, was my mom. Every time I had a problem, I would call her, hey, mom, all this. And she always motivated me to continue. Motivated my sister too, so I owe a lot to her. My dad he's a little bit more Hispanic, old school style, like, oh, whatever, and but my mom was more compassionate. So I owe a lot to her for the encouragement there, man. So thank God I graduated at 16. My story is a little funny, man. I've been in business since 2013. I have my contractor's license, but honestly, I learned this trade from my dad. He actually started being a contractor back in since 2000 when he first got his contractor's license. He started off in landscaping, tree services, all that stuff, And then he transitioned into hardscapes back in like 2005, 2006. So when I was like 14, 15, and then I went to the job sites with him, and we were excavating, digging, doing all the hard work. It was him, another guy, and myself, learning all about the industry, hard work. And, to be honest with you, I didn't like it at all, man. I hated it. I hate waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, going to have to dig a job site. I didn't like it at all. So that was my time. I still went into work because I like money, man. And my dad paid me. So at that time, it was like 40, 50 bucks a day, what he paid me. So I helped him all that time. And then graduated high school. Again, man, I still helped my dad, but I didn't like it. It was just for me to be like, okay, I'm making money. If I help him, he's paying me per hour. So I guess I help him. And then I decided to go to school, go to community college, get my degree. And originally I was going to go for pharmacy, but then I was like, you know what? My dad has a business. I'm thinking I'm going to do business. And then I started getting more into my dad's business, more involved in the business side. My dad being a small time contractor, there was a lot of things that he was missing, like what he was not doing correctly. Um, so I started helping him out. And then eventually my dad said, you know what, I'm going to stop. I'm not going to contract anymore. In 2013, I want you to get your license. Kind of threw me there. I was like, this was in 13. I was like, okay, let me go get my CCB license and I'll help you out. And so that's how I started in 2013. Again, I wasn't fully engaged in the business because I was still going to college, but I was still bidding jobs, going to job sites, and I was learning the whole ropes. I didn't know. I got scared, man. Honestly, when I went to a job site, I was like, how do I measure? How do I pull the tape measure out and measure a job site? And, there was a lot of pressure, man. And that was for probably 2 or 3 years where I just was learning, man, learning how to bid, learning how to build better customer service. And like I said, man, I was never fully engaged. I got my license because of my dad and all that. So that was for a couple of years, man. And then I graduated from university from Oregon State. And again, man, I wasn't fully engaged and I didn't really care. So I still had my license, man, active. I always kept it active. But then I went to work at an office job after I graduated college. And basically I worked in finance, what I got my degree in. And I was in an office setting for about 6 months, man. Honestly, I had my own office and everything. So I had a really good job. I was studying I don't know if you heard of a Series 7 exam for stockbrokers. So I took my first exam. I passed. I actually did not pass the second Series 7 part. This is really hard, man. I missed it by 4 points. So I was really close to getting the Series 7. And then I was sitting in my office. They were going to give me 2 more chances to take the Series 7. And I decided, you know what? I'm not going to work at the office setting on there. So I left, went to the outdoors, man. Went back to contracting. We got a few nice jobs, we also do exterior repainting, and we landed a really nice commercial job that year, and we made some good money, man. And then I was like, oh man, you can really make some good money contracting, And so I learned a lot of skills from my dad. Honestly, he's been my teacher on there. So
Yeah, that's awesome. When you think about that, in the world today, there's all this push about the trades, or to revigorate the trades, because people for so long they've been just pushing college and that education. But I think you have an interesting perspective because you did both. So I'm really interested to hear, when you look at that, you said when you worked with your dad, you had no interest, and it wasn't, it's like the furthest thing from your mind. But then a switch happened, and you just realized that you wanted to do this. What all went into that? I mean, I know you shared a little bit about the office and things like that, but what do you think it was that just connected to say, you know what, this is actually what I want to do?
That's a great question, Seth. I think a big part of that was the freedom, man. Honestly, I've always been kind of like, I always like to do my own thing. When I was at the office setting, I had a boss, training with a boss. So I had to do what he told me. I had to be there certain hours, from 5 o'clock in the morning and left around 3 or 4. But honestly, what really drove me to the contracting business, man, was the freedom. Honestly, just the perspective of being your own boss, kind of was in your mind. Be like, you know what happens if I can be on the other side, man? Be a boss, be a leader, instead of following somebody, man. And so I've always had those leadership traits, even in college, when we were doing projects and everything. I helped a lot of my fellow students graduate college, helped them study long hours at the library. I don't know, man. I've always been a natural leader, I guess. It's always been in that natural. Even though, man, myself, I don't look for leadership. It kind of just comes to me, dude. everybody kind of just looks at me. It's like, Ramondo, what do we do? I was like, dude, I don't even know the answer. I was like, okay, man, let's figure something out. So I don't know. People just gravitate towards the answers for me. You know, they ask me for advice. I think it's just part of the personality. You know, I have really open personality. I like making friends with everybody. Everybody has a unique, different story. So I saw those traits and I figured, you know what? I can use those traits in the contracting business, the leadership side. And honestly, man, right now I'm doing better than I've ever had, man. So that's what drove me to. It was kind of natural driven. You know, it wasn't pushed because I feel like a lot of contracts get pushed into the contracting business, and maybe they're not fully engaged, or you know, maybe they lack some things. Maybe they need to get more skills. I was kind of naturally driven to contracting, man. You know, I wasn't forced on there, so I went naturally into the business, man, of contracting. So
That's awesome. I love hearing, your growth and your success. One of the things that I would be curious about is there's a lot of people that end up going to school. Let's say it's a, 4-year degree or something like that. And then they realize that it's not for them. So similar to what you did. And I mean, I'm an advocate of both. I mean, I think the school of hard knocks and, celebrating blue collar as well as, having an education, but you have to have intention for what you want to do. But I guess my question would be, without going to school, how can somebody quench that thirst? Because society is actually telling you, go to school, go to school, go to school. And I feel like there's a lot of pressure for people to actually do that. They get a lot of debt and then they come out and then they end up going to the trades anyway. So you had this experience and you did it that way. But if you were to give somebody insight of how could you do that maybe without going to school, do you have any like thoughts or insight to how could they get that same feeling where that they could make that switch flip without doing the whole school thing if that's what they choose?
you know, man, that's a great question because it's really difficult. You know how society, since we're kids, we're kind of programmed, man, for the traditional education system. You know, to go through K through 12, and then from there go to universities. You know, I honestly university degrees in, you know, since the pandemic started and how the market has changed so much in the last 2 years, man. Honestly, even having just a basic education, trade skills, technical skills, or even an associate's degree is huge. Now, pe- people are realizing in the economy and the market that we live in, we don't need a university degree. You just need to be good at trades. You need to be good at technical things. Have a 2-year education is perfect. But like you said, I'm also an advocate for education. I think it would have been very difficult for me not to get an education and do contracting. I would still be swimming without a life jacket, man, basically. You know, basically, I'll be a terrible swimmer and I'll be probably drowning. So, education is so important, man. I've used my education. I was really lucky to go to school, man. I'm using that for the business here. And honestly, I would recommend somebody to at least go to a technical school, man, or a community college and get the skills to do bookkeeping, do taxes, do all those basic things because they don't teach you those things in a traditional university. You know, they teach you at community college technical schools, man. So I recommend at least minimum after you graduate high school, somebody that's younger. And I've advocated this for everybody who I've seen who's a lot younger than me, who's in between their 20 to 30s. I told them, get an associate's degree. Go get some type of education, man. And that way that you'll be better off in the market and you'll be more attractive to other employers too, because you'll be getting those skills. Plus you have a little bit of knowledge as well. So education, man, plays a big role.
How have you used your education? Because like I said, I think you have a great perspective of the best of both worlds. You have the, 4-year degree in education, and you also have, like I said, that training, and you were involved in the trades. So what did you take away that you're using in your business with the education that you got today?
So everything, man, basically just the basic things. And if I didn't go to school, man, I wouldn't have known how to use Microsoft Excel or basic Word document. You know, those basic things that that are very necessary for any small business to have, like QuickBooks, all those programs that you can use, how to calculate profits, different types of formulas you use, because there's 4 formulas, a lot of people like to use, especially in the contracting business: time, labor, overhead, and profit. There's 4 things. There's different, ways you can price out a job, but you need to know kind of like in your head, okay, how much profit I'm going to make. You got to know ratios. You got to know what your percentage is at a job. Like, okay, I'm 35% profit on this job. It's going to be my labor cost, my material cost, and it might be some unexplained costs, maybe a little bit, you don't know on this, but you need to, for you to be able to analyze those things, you have to have some type of formal training to be able to see that. So when you're out there bidding a job for a customer, you are really thinking, okay, this is where I'm going to spend my materials. This is my square foot. This is how much the job is, and this is where I want to target for my profits. And honestly, I wasn't in that mindset. This has just been recently, man. Before, I never thought about that. When I used to go bid a job, I never thought about those things. Where my profit's going to be, what's my labor costs, all that. Now I'm going to every job thinking right away, Seth, what my material cost is going to be, what my labor cost, how much profit I'm going to be, and if I have overhead on top of that. So I'm thinking about those 4 things now on every single job. And that has changed since the last quarter, that I'm thinking that way. And it's helping a lot, man. The profit margins that we're bringing in are solid, man. You're looking at 30 to 40% profits, and sometimes even up to 50, because I'm thinking that way now. So you needed some form of training, man, to be able to think technically. I'm a statistics. I like finance, dude. So I like looking at numbers all the time. I'm just, a big fan of numbers. I look at graphs. I was like, okay, this is where it's gonna be. Just because my training, man, in finance, we looked at those things all the time. So I like it. I like looking.
This show is brought to you by Momentum U. If you are an owner and you're ready to scale up and break past recurring challenges, it's time to start studying you. You are the only common piece between all your success and recurring challenges. You are the only person that can unlock your untapped momentum. Let us show you how. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.
I like it. I like looking where my numbers are at. My P&Ls, I calculate them every month, every quarter. Kind of nerd on that, man. But hey, you got to do those things, man. Those are really important, especially for any small business. You got to know where you're at on there, And so I pay the people that I have 4 employees right now, and I pay them really well, man. None of them are getting less than $18 an hour. So everybody's getting paid really well. And the toughest thing too, Seth, within the last 2 years is that turnover, man. People have been turning over jobs, and this has been consistent here in this country, where people are leaving their jobs, going to other places. And so now you're kind of forced to have to pay well, man, to keep everybody on there. So that's really important, man. So lucky for me, I could pay everybody well. And depending on their skills, they can make, in 6 months, they can make up to $25 an hour, man, if they really learn the trade and learn to do really well. So there's opportunity to be able to make good money working here. That's why I told everybody, you just need to get the skills, and then you can become a leader too. So I advocate for everybody to learn, get as much skills as they can so they can get paid more. And then since I have more jobs, I'm bidding more jobs. So I'm running 2 or 3 jobs at a time now. I'm also using subcontractors as well. So I got subcontractors working for me on there. So it's really well, man. This year's been crazy. I think we talked a little bit last month, man, where my targets were going to be. And honestly, I'm my sales year to date is it's ridiculous, man. I didn't think I was good, man. I was like, so it's really good, man. I'm closing jobs at a 70% rate, or even 80, man. Almost every contact I have, it's going to be rare for somebody to not close a job, man. So right. I have all the systems in place, man, and it's been rocking, man. Honestly, so far on there, we're booked out right now until I'm scheduling for April, May jobs, and those are probably going to get close too. So right now we're looking about 6 months in, or even the whole year, man. Potentially, probably here by the second quarter starts, man. I'll have everything booked for December. How it's looking, man. So it's really good, man. The market right now, and we're making in all these jobs that we have bid so far, man. Profits are going to be in, man. So which means, as we all know, when they're profits, you got to be careful because you pay taxes on that. So this is a good time to probably even invest in machine equipment and just be able to deduct some stuff, at the end of the year. So I'm looking at those things potentially in the next 6 months. Probably a mini skid steer, potentially maybe an excavator as well. So those are the things I'm looking for to invest in the company, because I've told this is not my company. This is its own entity, and I have to maintain it. I just direct the company, because most people think, oh, you're making all this money, blah blah. Nope, it's not my money. It's the company's money. I'm just responsible for how I use those funds, either if it's marketing or for paying employees or investing in the business. It's not my money.
Yeah, I think that's great. There's a couple of things that I want to circle back to. One is the education part. So there's also this idea that you're not gaining anything by doing the education. So I like to look at it as a and or. It doesn't have to be, I guess, and it doesn't have to be a either or. So like what you're saying is, and I like that, is, you actually went to university, you did some other training, but that's stuff that you learned translate into your business, and it made you think differently about how you run it. So I think people will say, okay, well, if I go do a degree or an associate's or something like that, it's not teaching me like the trades. But I like your perspective there, because you're actually saying that the stuff that you're learning there overall was things that you could bring back to your business and help it. So without that education, without some of that, it does make an impact. Because what I see as a business coach and working with people across the country is, we get good at a trade, we get good at something, but then the wheels fall off the bus in other areas, whether it's finance or if it's, processes or systems or whatever we weren't trained on. But a lot of times you may get that in a different way. But I think I agree 100%. You got to do it some way, whether it's a coaching program, whether it's it's associate's degree, or it's some type of other training to help you advance that cause. So I think that's really important, to remember, in the whole process. So I really like, what you did there. The second thing that I would say, and I just want to highlight a little bit about, there's this energy in the whole contracting space. And, to our audience, a lot of people's businesses are booming, and they can get business left and right, no problem. It's just crazy. Closing rates, like you said, are up. You show up, you basically get the job. So what I want our audiences to think about, and to really want to put out a challenge out there, is to look at a couple things. And I'm not saying that these are on or off, or they're right or wrong, but one of the things is the charge rate. If we close a really high percentage, can we charge more, and are we charging enough? I see that with a lot of contractors across the country, where they feel like they're charging enough, but really when they break down their overhead, they're not. So I'm not talking about in this specific case. This is just putting it out there for everybody as a couple things. And how you do that, is really important in the scheme of, we're so busy, we have things going on. And part two is, how do we make sure that we don't have the wheels fall off the bus? Because we get so busy, and then we lose many times the ability to scale, because there's other challenges that come with that. So this is just my plug for the audience to say, as you do this, I love to see businesses win. I love to see businesses booming. It's awesome. But you also want to pay attention to some of these other things that can catch up to you quick, if the market changes or this and that. So, I love that you have a background in finance, so you're staying on top of these. So that's, kind of wrapping it together with the education and all that stuff. It is important.
Exactly, man. Really, really important. like you said and mentioned on there, man. You have to track all these things. The nice thing with me, man, I do a analysis every quarter. So when the first quarter ends, I'm gonna see what my how much money I brought in, and see if I have to make adjustments for the second quarter. See if like you just mentioned, if I'm charging enough, which I feel like I am, but right now we have to be really careful because we have to take in consideration there's a high inflation rate right now. Gasoline prices are going up. Material prices are going to go up. Where I get my material, they're going to have a price increase in February. I really made the adjustment for coming into the year, So all the jobs I'm bidding for this year is the adjustment for the increase in February. But how everything has changed, man. And I told this to the material suppliers that they're going to increase again in April. How I see it, they're going to be probably 3 increases this year in what we know in material prices. And I think it's going to happen they're going to increase first quarter, second, and potentially in the last quarter. And that's when I told them. So we have to really adjust our pricing for that second increase. If it does happen in April, that we're looking at jobs right now. And the thing is, when I'm sending out proposals now, Seth, they're only good for 90 days. The pricing. I tell customers this, we're good for 90 days. If by 90 days, for whatever reason, you don't make a decision, it's going to be a different price. Why? We just cannot keep up with, we don't know what's going to happen in 3 months, in 6 months. Real inflation is over 10%. It was last year. This year is probably going to be 12, 15%. It's ridiculous, man, but there's nothing really we can do. There's a shortage in the labor force, shortage of materials, shipments, all that supply chain mess that's going on right now. So we have to really think this year in a strategy, man. We got to be prepared for those things, because when the wave does come, you don't get hit by the wave, man. So this is a year to really think about all those things, man, because it's not going to get any cheaper. That's not going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen this year, and I think it's not going to happen next year. We're going to have this crisis maybe for 2 or 3 years where prices are just going to increase. And I'm just hoping, we don't have super inflation. That's really rare. I mean, a lot of things have to play before that can happen. It takes a while, but we are going to have an inflationary crisis. And so we have to, as contractors, we have to prepare for that because our labor prices are going to go up too. As things start going up, we have to pay the employees more money to keep up with what, the inflation on there. So we really have to think hard this year and look at it, not just analyze it every year, analyze it every quarter. Where am I at first quarter? Okay, maybe I wasn't at what my profits are. I have to make an adjustment for my pricing on there. And what I recommend contractors, honestly, is this is very simple, man. To list all your pricing in an Excel spreadsheet. Everything, man. Everything that way you have everything tracked. And then when you're on a job site, you're not thinking about pricing. I have all my pricing, which is over 250 line items, and an Excel spreadsheet, man. I don't use any fancy program because I like Excel, man. And look at that second quarter, be like, you know what? I have to maybe adjust my price per square foot, my linear foot, French drainage. I have to go up because, pipes going up. So those are things to really look for and really analyze that and make those adjustments before the wave comes. And yeah, we have to really think hard.
So I want
to,
yeah, when you think about this, and I'm spending a little bit of time here because I think it's so important. It's so critical for business owners to look at their numbers and to do that. This is easy for you because you're a finance guy. It makes perfect sense. But I'd like you to share maybe some tips for the contractors out there that don't do this. So you said earlier in the show, like maybe your dad, for example, somebody that might not do it this way, but that's okay because that's how they grew up. And there's a lot of people that are similar. Then they say, okay, well, I don't use the system. Maybe I don't use Excel that busy or that way or whatever it is. So for those people, knowing how important this is, knowing it's mission critical, like I love how you're saying, well, there might be 3 or 4 adjustments in the next given year. There's a lot of contractors that are not thinking that way. They're not. It's not even on their mind. And and they don't even know that inflation's 10% or going to be more. So that means if things go up, inflation is 10%. And actually, I'll let you explain it. If you're charging X and inflation goes up, and this may seem basic, but just for our audience, because you're a finance guy, so I'll defer to the expert. So you're charging, let's say $50 an hour, simple rate, easy. If inflation goes up 10%, what does that mean to your business or your profitability?
So every time inflation hits, those are basically, it's going to eat up on your profit. So let's say you have a profit margin, and then you can't keep up with inflation. Your price doesn't change. You're still charging $50 an hour, even though you should make that adjustment. If it's 10%, you should be charging $75 to $100 an hour for just labor alone. So you have to keep up with, if people are charging an hourly rate, they have to think about that labor and material prices are going to go up. So you can't charge the same price. You have to think about, okay, if I'm starting to see prices at the store everywhere I'm go, Home Depot, wherever I'm buying materials, that the prices are up, that's when you start thinking, be like, you know what? I can't charge $50 an hour. Now I have to charge 75.
Well, let's like for a simple thing, let's say $50 is the right rate. So we're not going to say that is or isn't, or we're not going to say that is, but just for teaching purposes. So we're just teaching here. Mm-hmm. If it's $50 an hour, I'm trying to make this really simple for somebody that isn't a numbers person. And we're saying that inflation is going to be 10%. Let's just use that as a simple thing. I know there's other things involved. Does a contractor simply just take 10% of $50 and raise it $5? So their charge rate would be 55. Is that as simple as it can be, or is there more to it?
I would say that's the simplest way to think about it. To charge 10%, like you mentioned, that's a number, to try to adjust for the inflation. That would be the simple rate. Of course, we can get more technical, more complicated than that, but yeah, that could be the simplest thing to think about. So just think about raising, like you mentioned, $5, 10%, on there. So yeah, that's a simple way to look at it, to be able to cover those costs, man. But honestly, how everything is changing is just not, prices of we can get more technical, on everything, because everything's changing so much. But yeah, that's a simple way, very simple way to look at it. You're correct.
Right. And the same thing with your vendors, which is spot on too. If your vendors are going up 12% or 10% on average, we'll use a 10% on average just for simplicity of conversation. It's about raising those material prices and knowing what they are, because you're going to lose that 10%. So it's a big deal. And like I said, it doesn't have to be complicated, but I think, like I said, I think this is so important to really dive into it, because this is, I love that we're talking about, actually, because there's so many contractors that are afraid to raise their prices and they don't know what to raise it. And I think by you giving these simple tips, it's actually helping them understand that this is what I have to do, and everybody's doing it. So feel confident to do it. And not everybody's doing it. The ones that aren't doing it are going to be out of business. So I don't want that to be anybody listening here. And this could be a lifeline for you. Just raise the prices. You got to do it. Great stuff.
Yeah, you got exactly. And it's been kind of easy for me, because I am super transparent with all the customers, all the new appointments that I have. I let them know right away that, okay, I'm doing proposals or I'm submitting estimates in January. Just realize that this can potentially change. So if you don't accept something within the next 30 days, I might have to readjust this quote. And you know what? Everybody understands, because everybody knows what the situation that we're in right now. So every customer I've talked to, if they're looking to be booked for, which I'm booking for May and April, I'm telling them that they're going to be paying the rate of an adjustment, for that time. They all understand, man. You just have to talk to the customer, let them know that there's going to be increases in labor and what my price is. And they all understand, man. I haven't had anybody say, no, that's not, because that's the reality, man, that we live in. So everybody,
when you're looking at how to price, because again, I don't want to assume anything, because when you do that, bad things happen. So I just want to, this has been a very powerful session, and I believe that people are going to get a lot out of it. But I want to just break it down at a real simple way, because again, there's a lot of people that don't like to dive into these things. So I have two questions, with the finance thing yet, I think. And one is, how do you build up a charge rate in the simplest form? So you mentioned a couple things like labor and overhead. But what I found is, I was actually in a meeting the other week, and we were talking about these things, and somebody raised their hand and said, I don't understand what burden is or overhead. Like, what does that mean? We hear it all the time, and it's used all the time, and we understand it's a cost, but they don't understand like how to do that. So, with your background, if you were to explain that in layman's terms to somebody that is just trying to get a basic charge rate, how would they go about it in the most simplest form?
Okay, so I mean, there's different ways, Seth. You can price out jobs on there. The way I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna tell you a little bit my way. I price it through line items. I break it down through line items. So let's say, for an example, I'm bidding on a patio, 150 square feet. I'm charging in that line item, I include my square foot cost plus any paver cuts that I have, because you have to include those. And those are really calculated, and how much I roughly have per linear foot, how many paver cuts I'm going to have. The edging that I use for the edging for the patio, that's included in that cost. And I break it down for the customer, 120 square feet. This is your price. I don't put it per square foot. I start deleting that. I only put 120 square feet, and this is your price for just the patio. Now, if I have to remove, let's say, extra soil, I'm charging a rate for that extra soil of removal.
So let me just interject here quick. I'm just looking for a base rate. So let's say somebody is charging that $50 an hour, and they're saying they heard that earlier and said, well, Ramondo said it should be 75. Oh my goodness, I'm charging $25 less per hour. So I just want to provide a real simple way that they could just say, this is my labor rate. So not technical in what they're actually doing or by square footage, but if you just go and serve 1 hour at a customer, and we're going to take everything out of it, the initial service visit and all the other stuff you can get into, but just for 1 man hour, how could they feel like they're in the ballpark? Doesn't mean it's actually right, but just get them in the ballpark.
So yeah, you're right. You can charge an hourly rate. You take some employee. My rate, I'm gonna be honest with you, per hour, it's about $100 per hour rate. That's my rate that I charge if I were just to use labor, no materials, man. So just think about it that way. My labor hour costs $100, and I have a minimum charge, Seth. And I let.
But how do you get that 100? That's the question. So like, what does that compose of? So if somebody's trying to break that down and say,
okay,
what do I need? How do I build to that point
so
for
100
their business?
Includes everything. My employee per hour rate, my hour rate, workers' comp that I pay, all the insurances that I've paid. And that's basically what I get on my numbers is I can't charge less than $100 an hour because of all those things that are involved in that 1 hour having an employee. So that's just an hourly rate. But I have a minimum charge, Seth. Right now, it's $500, man. Yeah, for 2 hours, right? For 4 hours. So there's 4 hours minimum is $500, which means every hour after that, it's going to be $100. Does that kind of make sense? So I got 4 hour minimum charge.
Right. Yeah. So I guess, and that the minimum, that makes sense. But yeah, hopefully that helps somebody that's just trying to figure out an hourly thing. So basically, you're looking at your costs, you're looking at how much you're paying for labor, how much your other costs are for insurances or anything else that you have, and you got to figure out how much profit you have. Again, just really simple, breaking it down so that you can do that. Again, you can dive a lot more into this, but I would just check your rate to make sure that you're covering your costs, because you can't just charge what the neighbor or competitor is. So again, this is where a lot of
Yeah.
contractors make mistakes.
That's my rate here in the Portland area, metro area. Now, all these rates can be different. It could be less in some areas, but this is based on Oregon and Washington, where I also have a contractor's license. It's actually a lot more money. It's about 125, 150. It all depends on your area. You really got to dive into your market and figure out what your area is, because every state is different. I don't know. You live in Pennsylvania, right, Seth?
Yep,
I think maybe the rate's a little bit lower over there. I think it's like 75, could be $60, but every area is different. You really have to analyze the areas here, So that's the rate from all the cost here in Portland. It's expensive to live in Portland, expensive to be in this area. So that's what our rate is. So people really have to look at those. I guess if somebody is from, let's say, the Midwest or something, it's a lot cheaper just because the living expenses, all the expenses are a lot less. So you really have to look at your market, on there and figure out what your rate is. So that's a very basic way to look at it, to calculate those things, because it's different in every state, but that's the most basic way I think I can. Yeah, you can, like you said, man, you can get more technical. I can get more technical with all this, but it's not, it's just going to be wasting time, I think. If I can speak 2 hours about all this, man, but
if somebody doesn't like to do this, because there's also going to be people that are listening that says, this is still not my thing. I still don't get it. Still doesn't make sense. What is the simplest form of advice you would say that they should do if they don't want to do this?
Contracting stuff. Okay. So my advice,
doing the finance and the numbers things, like being able to come up with an hourly charge rate, like all the stuff that we just kind of talked about, that is essential for the business. Like, you like to do it, but there's people that out there that are old school that they don't know. They're still charging, let's say, that $50 an hour. Now they heard this. They said, you know what? I really need to look at this, but I don't like to do it. What should they do?
I think they should really look at it and be like, we're in a changing environment. We're changing every year. Technology, everything, the way we're communicating with customers, everything is changing. My dad's old school, Seth. He's from the old school. There's a lot of things I learned from him, but there's a lot of things that he does now that doesn't work. And I've told him this, and it's hard for them because they're really up there. They're like, no, I'm not going to learn that. I really know about all this, so they don't want to make that change. And I understand, because the old school way of thinking, a lot of things, you've done a lot of work, you've been in the business for many years, and it's hard for you to get that mental change. But really, we live in 2022 now. We really have to change. This is not 2 or 3 decades ago. This is 2022, where everything, every 6 months, man, is changing. So we have to adapt to the changes if we want to continue to be in the business. It's either by getting more skills, talking to the people that know a little bit more, like myself or other people out there, just getting advice. And, I'm 31, Seth. I'm in the younger generation. Just if these older people really need to look at the younger generation like us, and they can learn a whole bunch of things, honestly. But that's the thing. If we want to move forward, the older generation really needs to start looking at the younger ones and how we're doing things now, man, because that's the future, how we do things. And then when we get older to their age, we're going to be old school, so now it's old school. And now we have to listen to the younger people, because they're going to be the ones teaching us, man, how we do it in 20, 30 years. So that's the thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. I really think this was a great advice. This was something that I think needs to be talked about, the finance side and some of the how to charge. And, I'm glad the conversation went that way, because it is so important. And I just see it over and over where contractors are struggling. And the goal of this is to help people out, to spread the word. So like, that is a big thing. And if one person just readjusts their pricing and doesn't lose money this year, we're helping people. And that's like powerful. So I really love what you've shared there. A couple quick fire questions to end and wrap up. The construction industry would be better if.
The construction industry would be better if we all played together. And there's this group in Facebook. I don't know if you heard of it. It's called the Hardscapers of America on Facebook. Honestly, there's really a lot of toxic people in that group. So there was a question I read yesterday, about a younger contractor who was just starting off in hardscape, asking a question that how much they were charging per on their jobs, right? And I was looking through the comments. There was like 47 comments, and honestly, all those comments, man, I was ashamed, man, because they were all toxic comments attacking this younger person. That's no way to be. You should be like, oh, you need some help. Here's my email address. Here's my phone number. Text me, and I'm more than happy to go over your pricing, see what your state you're in, go over some things you're looking to help. If you can either charge per square foot, you can charge per linear foot. There's different ways you can charge, but we can have maybe a conversation. Here's my email address. And the things that we're saying to this younger person, I was like, damn, I would have never posted a comment like that because it was all toxic. So I don't know what's up. A lot of people feel like, puffing up their chest. I don't know, man, in that group, which was 47 comments. And instead of helping this person, because we're all in the same team, man, I feel hardscapers, doesn't matter, contractors, it's the same struggle, man. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, contractors today, man, have to understand that we all have the same problems. Have the same problems, and there's no shame in saying where your problems are at, man, because maybe somebody else is doing it correctly, and you can learn from that person. I'm a huge advocate, man, for learning how other people are doing things. I always talk to other contractors, hey, man, how you doing this? Oh, awesome, man, that works for you. And he's like, oh, how do you do your marketing, man? Well, I have a YouTube channel. I'm posting videos on YouTube. Oh, but you need expensive cameras? No, man. I just have a phone. Get some clips. Maybe you need to have somebody else do some clips. Just do clips of your work. It could be 8 minutes, 10 minutes. Great marketing tools, man. It's like, really? You can do that? It's like, yeah, man. YouTube is free platform. Take advantage of it. Use Instagram, man, because everybody's on Instagram. Take pictures, take videos. A lot of people like those short 30-second videos. So right. I help people on the marketing side, and then they help me out. Be like, hey, how are you getting more employees? How are you keeping the employees happy? So we can always learn back and forth. So the construction industry will be better if we all play it as a team, dude.
I can build blank in my sleep. One more to answer. First thing you think of.
I can build blank in my sleep. That's a hard question, man. You know what? It's funny, man. In my sleep, I dream about work. Like the other day, I was dreaming that I was like installing a retaining wall, man. So I think I can build construction or build work in my sleep too, man. It's just when you're dived in so much into the work that you do, Seth, you even dream about it, man, as well.
My biggest challenge is blank.
Challenge in life, or it's probably gonna be keeping the all my employees happy and making sure we don't have a turnover rate. Because that can really affect you. Because if you have a lot of jobs, Seth, lined up, and you don't have the labor force, you're not going to be able to do those jobs, man. So I'm working exclusively on building great relationships for my subcontractors, making sure they have everything they need to be successful. And my employees that I have, making sure they have the tools, to be successful. And that's going to be my biggest challenge, to make sure those relationships are strong. So they're not looking elsewhere, man. They're looking for me, and I can help them out. I got the tools to help them out. And that's part of the leadership trait that we talked about, man. I never got into this role because I wanted to be a leader. It was naturally driven, man. So that's the biggest challenge, to make sure our relationships stay strong, man, with everybody.
Your biggest skill?
People. Customer service, man, I think.
Last thing you bought on Amazon?
Last thing I bought?
On Amazon.
Case. Max.
Awesome. You never know how that one's going to go. It can be a lot of different things. Favorite tool or piece of equipment?
Favorite tool, man. Honestly, the mini dingos, the skid steers. Those are probably my favorite equipment. Those probably fit almost everywhere, man. And I have some videos on YouTube where I'm using those machines. Honestly, man, I can use any of those dingo machines, and I'm really good at using them. I was impressed. My dad taught me how to use machines a long time ago, but then it's like the other day he's like, oh shit, you can use all the machines really well. All the brands, Veneer, the Ditch Witch, all those, like, you can use those really good. I'm like, no, I just maybe the video games, man, helped a lot.
That's when I keep playing those video games, right?
Right, man. Yeah.
So just to wrap up, I really want to appreciate you being on the show. Ramondo, if you could just tell them where people can find you, on Instagram or social media or website, whatever you want to do to contact you, or, an FRC construction.
So yeah, if anybody wants to reach me, like I said, I'm in the Portland metro area. I also service Washington and Oregon. Contact information, of course, you can go to my website, FRC Oregon, FRCconstructionoregon.com. That's my professional website. They can also reach me out to social media platforms, Instagram, FRC Construction on there. And then also on Facebook, again, FRC Construction. And then I also have a YouTube channel that I just started, I would say about 6 months ago. I'm not a YouTuber. It's getting there, So FRC Construction, they can also find me on YouTube on there. So yeah, they can find me on those platforms. And usually the best way to reach me is on those social media platforms. Either on Instagram is really good. I'm using that a lot. So they can message me on there if they have any questions. And then I'm more than happy to answer any questions from anybody, help them out. I think, like I said, and I end this with, we're all a team. And if we're going to make it through 2022 and in the future, we have to work as a team. And things have changed so much now with social media, Zoom calls, all this, that we can definitely help each other out. And it doesn't matter what state, we're all in the same crisis. Everybody, it's the same pandemic for everybody. But let's not let this thing turn us down, but let's just go up from here.
That's awesome advice. I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for being here. Thanks for all the advice. I love it. And it's super beneficial. Thanks again.
All right, Steph. Thank you for your time, man. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. Like and share with other contractors. Start studying you to unlock your momentum. Go to www.startthemo.com to learn more.